Phase 1. So in this exercise, we're using a ball, dribbling about 8 yards, and we're just using the inside of our foot to cut around the cone. We go a couple times, and then we'll switch feet. So you start with your right foot or your dominant foot, and then you'll switch over to your weaker foot. Now we switch and use the outside of our foot, again starting with our dominant foot, and then we'll swing over and use our left foot on the next 2 rounds. On this one, we now add a fake right before we cut with the outside of our foot. So this is a little bit of deception to give yourself a little bit of space, maybe delay or stun the defender. It's a simple variation like we added on to a lot of simple technical exercises. And again, we do the same thing a couple times with our dominant foot, then switch over to our weaker foot, still adding in the fake. Now in these last couple, we just switch up the movements. So we're using the inside of our foot on the first round, and then on the second one, we start to use the outside of our foot. So we have to adapt our movement based on the rhythm of the exercise. Now we have a line of about 8 cones. We're just dribbling through. We'll start with using our right foot to get through the cones, 2 touches to get through. And on our way back, we do a right foot ball roll to return to the start of the line. An important detail on these little dribbles is to make sure that we're always dancing with our standing foot. So in this case, I'm dribbling with my left currently, and my right foot is always moving along with me to make sure I maintain my balance. Now we switch up the movement back to the start of the line by doing some toe touches instead of the ball roll. You can see these guys that are dribbling right now are former college level players. And even we are struggling a little bit to complete the exercise. So this is something that you would normally expect players of all levels having difficulties with unless they're practicing on a regular basis. Now we're doing 2 touches to get to the cones, but moving backwards. This one has to deal with a little bit of spatial awareness and understanding of where the cones are behind you in relationship to yourself and the ball. And on our way back, we do the same thing of just doing toe taps just to get back to the start of the line. Phase 2. Now I start to progress into more difficult skills. Again, this is dribbling to some cones that are in a zigzag pattern and using the outside of our foot to go around the cone. And then we have a line of cones doing something similar to the last exercise, but just adding this movement in so that way we get more reps and more touches in our exercise. next two we transition and we now use the inside of our foot to go around the cones. Still alternating, using our left on one side and using our right on the other side. Idea is still the same. Weaving, circling through the cones, and then on our line of cones on our way back to the start of the exercise, however you want to get through the cones with some nice clean touches. On this next one, we now do a scissor step on one of the cones on one of the sides, and on the other side we do a step over. When you do the move, you are using the same foot to initiate the movement, whether it's the scissor or the step over. So in this case, we're using our left foot to do our scissor, or start the scissor, and our left foot to do a step over. We're trying to combine these two movements in a relatively tight space to make it more realistic to a game setting where you might be beating one, two, or several players. This next one adds in a Maradona with a little flick at the end. Again, imagining we're weaving our way through a crowded middle of the field to get away from several defenders. Differentiation. So in this we have two hoops, and then we have two cones in the middle. Each player is using a different ball. The player on the left currently has a tennis ball. The player in the center has a regular soccer ball. The player on the end, towards the right, has a weighted futsal ball. We're all doing the same exact movements, however we're using a different weighted, different sized ball. This exercise allows players to adjust their touch based on the ball in their hand. Soccer players will use this in the game to adjust or evaluate the weight of their touch, whether it's a ball that's incoming to them from a pass, or whether a ball that's or whether it's a touch that they need to take to get away from a defender, or maybe to not allow the ball to move too far away. Go ahead. Again, focusing on differentiation. One player is using a tennis ball while the other player is using a soccer ball. Again, just trying to weave through a smaller amount of cones. And then they switch on the other side.
That's the point of the
and do the
exercise.
same thing on the way back with the other ball. And again, you can see a college level player struggling to get through the cones
Go again? Yep.
with his tennis ball. If we were to give him a couple more repetitions with this exercise, either on a separate day or even within the same day, you definitely see improvement.
One more.
differentiation, again, the player that's closest to the camera is using different balls to dribble around the cones, make a circle. The player in the back is using all soccer balls around the cones.
Okay, and same thing back.
Complete
Go.
the exercise or get to the end, they'll switch.
Use your left. Okay, use outside of your foot. Okay, start with your right, outside, right. Go.